Independence Day, one of my very most favorite holidays. You know, country's tearing itself apart. We've got people saying black out this holiday, don't celebrate it. I was thinking about that this morning as I'm having some coffee. And the beautiful thing about our country, the beautiful thing about this birth of freedom is that you get to not celebrate if you don't want to. James Madison said, in the future, I'm paraphrasing it, us, will look back on what we did and they'll have aerial displays. They're going to party because of what we did today. That, to me, when I first read his writings on that, it made me understand, man, they don't even get to reap the benefits of their work. Many of those folks died never getting to see this true birth of liberty. They fought and fought and fought. It's almost like if you were a farmer or a gardener, or better yet, somebody planting trees for a forest like Johnny Appleseed. You plant all those seeds, you do the work tearing the ground up, but you never really get to see the fruit of it. I've got trees that we planted here that have grown quite tall, but I'll be long gone before they've reached maturity. That's really what our founders did. Did they have imperfections? So do we. You know, I was thinking about this blackout the holiday, about not celebrate because of the evils of the past. And I kind of had this analogy in my head. Check it out. Maybe you had bad parents. Maybe you had parents that abused you, beat you. Maybe they were drunks, drug addicts. Maybe they abandoned you. Maybe you were adopted. Maybe you had great parents, but if you did, you can probably get this analogy. You were born. You have a birth date. Today is our country's birth date. If your parents were bad, evil, hurt you, today or whatever day is your birthday is still your birthday. It was still the day that you were born. It was still the day that life entered you, or you entered this world, right? You came out of your mother's belly. Nothing that your parents did changes that. Nothing that your parents believe changes that fact. That fact that you came out of your mom into the world and started breathing air. That happened regardless of what your parents thought, did, believed, etc. July 4th, 1776 happened regardless of your thoughts about it. It happened regardless of the good and bad that our founders did or didn't do. See, they created an environment where we get to chase and do whatever we want. I'm very thankful that my wife gets to be an officer at a company. I am very grateful that my daughter can vote, become president if she wanted to, or do anything else. I'm very grateful my son, my brothers, myself can do those things as well. I'm grateful that my friends that have darker skin than I can do those same things. Nothing stays the same though. And it is incumbent upon us to perfect the union, to perfect it. That is really what the founders did. Check this out. You know, talking about all the history that so many misconstrue. Justice Joseph Story, probably a name that you've never heard unless you're a legal scholar. And I didn't hear about him until I was doing some research today. He was appointed to the Supreme Court by President James Madison, so that's a long time ago. He said the first and fundamental rule in the interpretation of all documents is to construe them according to the sense of the terms and the intentions of the parties. Basically, he's saying if we are going to read the founding documents or even the laws as they exist today, we have to understand what the person that wrote them, what they were thinking. Check this out. James Wilson, another justice on the Supreme Court, an original justice, said the first and governing maxim in the interpretation of a statute, which is a law, is to discover the meaning of those who made it. That's not hard, right? But that's a problem. We look through the optics of what we know. We look through the optics of what we think is right, what we think is just, and we judge people then. I hope nobody judges me today based on what I did as a 20, 21, 22-year-old, because I was an idiot, right? We can't look back at what those men did and judge them through what we know today to be ethically or morally wrong or right. It's just not really possible. Yes, you can look and say in today's society, this or that is wrong. Things like slavery, things like subjugating women or homosexuals or anybody else that society put down. See, that's the other thing. It's not like there's just some dudes with white wigs on doing that. They were doing the will of the people, right? Just like we have the ability to do now. So on this day, I'm going to cook some Colorado craft beef, little plug. I'm gonna do some brats and chicken. I've got some fireworks, maybe illegal, maybe not. Got some nice beers. I've got several flags hanging. I've got some time that I've spent in the yard alone thinking to myself, I am very grateful that men and women were violent, righteously violent against an oppressive power across an ocean so that I today can sit and talk to a telephone in a room that I get to own regardless of what anybody says. I get to put my viewpoint out to the world even if people disagree. In doing so, I also get to take in information from you and others and decide whether or not I agree or disagree. Men and women, several hundred years ago, felt that they were pushed to a point that it was necessary. Read the founding document that was signed today. Actually, it was signed August 2nd, 1776, but it was ratified today. Read it. It becomes necessary. Jefferson said it's necessary for us to do this. He didn't say we feel like it. It is necessary because you have pushed us to this point, telling the king that. It's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting that they didn't just march in the streets and pound their chest. Something I think that we should be reminded of today. It's interesting that they didn't just post things on social media. They didn't just write shit down and tack it to doors. They acted. Right now, we've got a lot of people that think tearing up cities, hating each other, screaming, calling names is somehow analogous or equal to what our founders did. Not only is it not even close, it's disgusting. It does not pale in comparison. They gave us an example. Servant leadership. They served us today by leading. They literally laid down their time on this earth so that we today can do whatever we want. Be it hate this country, that's on you. You live with that. But I promise you, if you truly study the history of this nation, good, bad, right, and wrong, you will find out that this fervor of liberty, this desire to be free, is coupled with a love for each other. And that, I think, is pretty damn powerful. If you continue to find the faults, which are there, and we shouldn't try to cover them up, we should remember them, but we shouldn't seek to continually point them out. If you look hard enough, you will find that by and large, we are the most generous, caring, loving nation ever to touch the face of this earth. If you spend your time trying to find all the faults in anybody or anything, that becomes your life. If you spend your time watching the news, whatever those people put into you becomes your reality. If you spend your time being doubtful, fearful, angry, anxiety-ridden, that becomes your life. If you spend your life becoming loving, kind, generous, believing in yourself and others, that becomes your life. This day literally means you can do whatever you want. And that is a powerful, powerful thing. So black this day out if that's what you'd like to do. If you want to have a good time, come to our house because we are going to celebrate the liberty that was given to us with righteous violence by people that loved us, never having known us. That is powerful. Mickey with CarryTrainer.com, Drew behind the camera. Remember how we got here, guys.